So greetings from Finland, where we are here at the studio, where we just recorded the Tech Trends 2024 podcast. And me and my colleagues from Deloitte, we just discussed about the trends that are shaping the future and shaping the organizations, how Gen AI and how other technologies are helping in that sense. So continue watching to find out a little bit more about that. In a recent study done by Deloitte with nearly 3,000 directors and C-levels, 79% of them agree that Gen AI is going to be transformative within 3 years for their business. However, when you look at the actions that they are taking, they are pretty much using Gen AI to increase productivity or reduce cost. And that doesn't seem a lot of very promising or very transformative for me. And within the Deloitte, within the last 15 years of the Tech Trends reports, we have been covering not just the Gen AI, but any other AI advancements as well. And to help me to discuss about not just Gen AI, because that is just one topic amongst the other 6 that are very relevant for the companies to discuss and tech leaders to discuss, I have with me a group of experts from Deloitte that I'm happy to introduce to you. Mira?
Hello, everybody. I'm Mira. I'm Mira Sallamo. I started my career in the public sector. I used to be a civil servant in the Ministry of Finance here in Finland, and then at the European Commission. Stayed in Belgium for quite a while, for 27 years, working for the Commission and Deloitte Belgium. Deloitte consulting there indeed. And they're serving for the European public sector, so mainly European Commission, helping the European Commission in their challenges related to the IT environment, IT departments, how to organize, how to manage IT talent, everything that has to do basically with organizing
Which is
IT.
a lot.
Exactly. And now, since a couple of months, I'm back in Finland. So super happy to be back, and I'm at Deloitte Finland now.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you back in Finland.
Welcome
as well.
back.
Thank you.
And then we have Dean.
Yes, Dean Rahman here. I lead the AI and data practice in Finland for our energy, resources, and industrial customers. Most of our team focuses on the energy and resources side. I do try to specialize on the industrial clients who make really tough to make stuff, complex products. I have 20 years of doing that in the US as well prior to coming to Finland 5 years ago. And now I've been focusing on how Gen AI can actually transform, to Felipe's point, what the clients are doing, and not just, let's say, do marginal improvements along the way.
And then we have Anu on my right side.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Anu Laitila, and also coming from Deloitte Finland, and I work in risk advisory in our cyber team. And we obviously try to keep our clients and the software and the people and the data safe from the cyber criminals. And previously I used to work in marketing and media industry, and AI also have a big impact there. So I follow the news quite carefully and all the applications.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks. And obviously myself, I'm Felipe Piccirilo, based here in Helsinki, in Finland, and taking care of the CIO program and tech M&S and all the fun stuff that we do here. Obviously, there's another things that we take very serious as well. So 2023, it was the year that we said hello to the Gen AI. Most on the news, it was very hyped. It was on everybody's agenda. Naturally, in 2024, it's going to be like that again. And I think one of the reasons that it caused so much fuzz in the market was, ChatGPT took only 2 months to reach 100 million users, while still another impressive adoption like that before, it was TikTok, taking 9 months to reach the same number of users, which was very impressive. But like I was saying in the beginning, I mean, if you look into the report that we did, 79% of them agreeing it's going to be transformative. However, they are using as a sort of a diet pill where I can cut costs, eventually helping or expecting to get some productivity. Why, in your opinion, is that contradiction? I mean, why are you not using Gen AI for really being transformative in that sense? And in your perspective, then data is a big topic also to use any AI advancements, right?
Yeah, sure. So most of the companies we surveyed with all respect, right, are public companies, and most of the press goes to the, let's say, governance or risk mitigation layer. So at any company, and the creative companies are the most illustrative of this, you have the creators, the creative people. In a sense, they're the masses of the company, and they're the ones who are creating data that's worth protecting. And data is a very, let's say, inflamed word in my view. Like if you think of Apple as a painting company, right? If you make that analogy to their products, analogy between their products and paintings, you have all those people that are the artists doing the paintings, and then you have the in-between layer, the risk mitigation layer. Again, with respect, IT, cybersecurity, management. Most of our clients are the risk mitigation layer. So I think if we give the microphone only to these people, you're going to really focus in on those aspects that are about, incremental boosts and cutting fat and increasing linear productivity. But I think, the hope is in the fact that most of the people are creators at most of these companies. Even the most risk-averse companies that create stuff, they are mostly creators. They're just not the ones with the microphones. But you still get tremendous things from those companies. Again, I'll talk about Apple and Tesla. You get tremendous products out of those companies that we all know. And the creators inject themselves among the risk-averse people as well. At Tesla, all the way at the top, you have someone who's actually on the creative side, or at least thought to be that. So I think it's because of who we're giving the microphone to, and I wouldn't give up hope that there's going to be tremendous things coming out, transformative things coming out from the actual paintings themselves.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for your thoughts on that, Tin. And Anu, people, technology is always a good and a dangerous combination, right?
Yes, that's where the human aspects come from. And considering the kind of first bit you said, I think it's easiest for the companies that they start cutting the cost and thinking about the productivity and thinking about the world where we live now. So we kind of foresee that maybe recession is coming, and we have seen a lot of people being laid off. But I don't think the AI will be the reason for that. And I'm really hoping that the companies they find the talents. So they find the new talents that can make them work around AI more creatively. And of course, like Dean, you mentioned the cybersecurity there. It's the security layer, and we need also more from people. We need to teach people how they can, mitigate the risk and how the company can come together, fight against the crime or even maybe I could say threats that are coming with the AI. And I think considering any technology, there is always the possibilities and the criminals, they always find a way to then take an advantage and start to monetize their technology wrong way.
Yeah, the bad guys are always
they're always there. Yeah,
they're always there. They don't need to wait for regulations or being too ethical, right? And they take advantage of this evolution.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes sad, but they are quite creative.
Yeah,
and they are forerunners. And I feel sad to say this, but this is often the case. And we normal I consider as normal people, we have ethics and we follow law. So, but they don't, and they can just. They can do whatever they want, basically.
Yeah, we can only fight fire using fire as well, and using these tools for our own benefit too. And talking about people, I mean, let's talk about this elephant in the room, right? I believe that and not just me, but in our report, in our studies, we believe that in the age of creative machines, creative people matter more, not less, right? And I think there is a fantastic story that we chronicle in the report. That's basically a couple of years ago, we were in New York and discussing with a client about this magic tool that was able to paint anything that we want. Basically, this Genie was there just to grant all our wishes. And we asked one of the executives there, say, hey, this thing can paint anything you want. Just tell me something. And he was like kind of grumpy with crossed arms and said, well, just give me a sunset, right? And then obviously when the paint come and he realized, well, this is just a sunset. And then obviously the creativity was not all that sad, right? But then his chief of staff, this lady come, jumping in front of him and say, okay, I wanted to see a fight of Cheetos and pretzels. And the Cheetos have squirt guns and the pretzels have moonchocks and all the things on Mars. And obviously everybody first thought, oh, okay, this is a crazy lady or whatever. But still, they were quite amused and entertained with the idea. And obviously when the paint comes and everybody was like joyful, excited about the idea what something could materialize for. So in the age of creative people, how can we pair this technology to make our business to grow, like not shrink our way to success, but how to grow? Mira, do you want to give a couple of examples for us on that sense?
Well, there is always I've seen an analogy. I've seen an illustration where, when the Industrial Revolution came and the first automatization of factories came. So this will take all our jobs. Scary. Now, next thing happened with the computers coming. That will take all our jobs. Scary. And I think now is a bit of the same kind of reflection happening that, AI will take our jobs. I don't believe it takes our jobs. It might change our jobs. And indeed, it might give room more for nice things. It might give more room for creativity. It might give more room for developing something, not just that what has to be done in everyday busy environment, but something new. So again, I'm perhaps eternal optimist, but I do think there is a nice opportunity of transforming us to do things that really, really matter and are of interest.
Yeah, I think it's the old sentence right there. AI is not gonna take our jobs, but somebody that knows how to use that better or to their advantage probably might get someone's job, right? and I don't know, and especially on this security, we're just talking about people and combination technology and people getting creative using those. You see that happening also on their clients in that sense.
Yes, but I would say that I see that happening more at the moment on the criminal side, using the AI against us. But many organizations, they still considering these tools. And of course, you need to think about how you will use those tools and actually what tools you use. And of course, it's always an investment. So to get the money to, if you have a big company, it's a big investment, and then you need to train your people to utilize these tools. But I think what I'm hoping to see is that when you use the tools, they give us more time to think and be more creative, because they hopefully take their repeating work away and kind of free our space in our heads. And I think it was said that their AI in AI the imagination is the limit. So anything is possible, but the creativity is needed. And sometimes it's hard to be creative when you work full time, have a lot of meetings and change their subjects. So we need to maybe get those things automated and have a space for creativity.
I think creativity needs space, a lot of space.
Yeah. You get
the
best
magic happens.
Yeah, exactly. And you get the best ideas when you go out to walk, or sometimes you are going to bed and you maybe already nearly sleep, and then you get the best idea.
The best ideas come in the shower.
Yeah, or in the shower. It's not coming during your normal work hours or anything. So you need to have space.
I'll jump on that.
Yeah.
And I'll say it in a different way, and I'll connect it back to our tech trends example, right? If every time somebody has an idea, there's a ton of hard work to do with that one idea, one version of the idea, that's where we slow down, right? I mean, that guy couldn't think of more than the sunset, right? Mm-hmm. And then, the lady came in with an example. It sounds ridiculous, but she clearly knew what she was doing, that, you can imagine the application for that is probably an advertisement about snacks.
Right.
But, she can think of, if she were responsible for that one animation with the nunchucks and the Cheetos and so forth, she probably couldn't come up with that many ideas, wild ideas like that, right? Because she'd be giving herself a lot of hard work. Not that she wouldn't enjoy that work, but, to come up with 20,000 ideas like that in the time that she would have taken to just draw that one picture.
Test it.
Yeah, right.
Quickly test it.
Exactly. But take that directly to, for example, product development, right? Product development has a lot of heaviness to it, but at the end of the day, right, if a physical machine has 20,000 moving parts to it, each of those parts is a drawing.
Yeah.
And drawing that is a lot of hard work. And it comes from very creative people given the task to, okay, well, draw this one of 20,000 pieces based on a bunch of things I'm going to tell you. But now you can train, your AI based on all those tens of thousands, millions of examples we have of, okay, how do you describe that one moving piece versus the drawing that comes out? Now you can skip past the sunset. You can skip to that, Cheetos versus what was it?
Pretzels
thing, and that creativity comes at the end, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to do something wild with the sunset, you should already have a picture of a sunset to go, and that's when you can think about, what does the sun mean here, and what are the additional things you can do with it. But I think we're saying the same thing. It's just. It's good to remember that creativity comes with a lot of rough drafts, and AI cuts out the rough draft work. Doesn't cut it out; it takes over the rough draft work. So you can, as the creative mind, biological mind behind it, can take it further.
Yeah, and I think talking to a few of our C-levels and directors, they mentioned, I think it was the first time that the AI, climbed at the stairs out of the basement, for where the those deep technicians were using those complicated tools. And at first they land really on the boardroom table and say, okay, I can ask questions about the strategy, getting ideas about products, getting insights about my competitors maybe. And that was so easy for them to use. They start to say, okay, this is not just like a blue collar kind of tool, but a white collar in a sense that, okay, this can really help me on my job and so easy to use. I think that was an impressive aspect that we saw last year, and that's why we're addressing this elephant in the room so early in the tech trend session. But hey, we are here to talk about tech trends, and there are a lot of things, like there are another 5 other big topics that we wanted to address, as important as AI. So let's go to the first trend, which is interfaces in new places. It's the era of the industrial metaverse. So in our report, we're seeing that these glasses, AR, VR, kind of technologies, obviously for us that working behind a desk with a keyboard is very traditional. It's nothing so new, right? We already know applicabilities and so forth. But really, this technology is getting into the hands of those that we've been trying to push, iPads, iPhones, screens, digitalize their work, but they always have their hands occupied by actually doing the work in some sense. And one example that I really like is about this Stanford medicine that is mentioned in our report, where, they're using the data that they get from MRIs, from the scans, X-rays, create a digital patient, and they can practice the surgery a couple of times, maybe connecting with experts around the world, simulating the patient, simulating the surgery. And then before, putting the scalp into skin, right, they can test, cut it twice before, measuring twice before cutting once, right? Hopefully the patient didn't hear that. So basically, that's quite a great applicability. Finally, they have their hands free and they can feel a bit of the digitalization. But what about in the industry aspect? What about in the cities? What about in other environments, Mira? What is happening with this virtual reality?
I think metaverse is such a thrilling, exciting example of future prospects. Where can we go? And again, perhaps I'm dreaming, some say, but it offers like endless possibilities to me. to navigate and to test and to find solutions. Like thinking of industry, I like very much the health sector use case you mentioned, but also then think of a factory where security rules are extremely important. How about for training purposes and for navigating, for problem solving? If there's an issue somewhere in the factory, you don't need to necessarily in the future go physically to the place to check it and put yourself into danger. Perhaps you can go via the virtual environment and see where the problem might lie. So I think that's a brilliant example again where metaverse could be a very, very useful tool for us. I also been quite a lot involved in smart cities, European smart cities, and they're looking at the digital twins. And to me, that's like a step towards metaverse, perhaps not yet, cannot be called metaverse, but on the way to. And there to see, for example, for city planning, excellent digital twins. You can illustrate how would your city look like? Would you use this kind of elements? Would you use this kind of materials? Would you put parks here? How would the traffic look like? I mean, it's endless. So I think it's a really, really exciting journey to go for. Perhaps some people say it's a hype, it's just in the air, but I do believe there is something in it that we need to tap on. And perhaps still to say, I understand Finland is quite advanced in metaverse developments. Having been working on the European level, that's something we could definitely bring towards rest of the Europe.
Yeah, and I think we crossed that or at least the border of using the metaverse to just print 3D buildings and so forth, but actually seeing them working. Like we help one of our clients, Hyundai, to plan their plans completely in a digital environment, see the plant working, understanding the flow of the products and cars and being produced, and people in the floor of the plants and so forth. All of that simulating before obviously creating the plant, right? Building the plant. And the message I think here is simple: is way cheaper to pour pixels than to pour concrete in that sense.
A
right?
tremendous environmental impact too, right? Even if you put the currencies aside, just the waste that goes with having to test repeatedly, it gets cut down. I mean, safety, for example, is very important. If you're going to spend resources, spend it on safety, but now you can spend a lot less just by digitizing the digitizable parts.
And I think for the products, also creating products, that has been very helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, digital twin goes a long way. Doing a lot of simulations, a lot of destructive testing can be replaced. I mean, you have the obligation, if a product has a safety implication for the user, to do lots of testing, and you have to limit how much danger you put the test participants into. So now you don't have those limits because the participants are only digitally interacting to come up with those situations for the simulation. Similarly, as in the city, you can city planning, you can discover a lot of potential disastrous outcomes, or even if it's like a 1% outcome, you can detect those. 0.001% outcome, you can detect those by doing all those simulations that you really just couldn't do in real life or even traditional models.
And one example that I remember from the report was that the guests did this interesting digital twin from their shop locations, and they created the renovation through the digital space instead of traveling to each location globally. And they thought this was kind of environmentally friendly decision. They saved the cost, and of course, they saved especially the environment.
Yeah, that's a fantastic example of sustainability. But the time urges, and we need to keep moving on the tech trends. So the second chapter is about the genie out of the bottle. We talk about a lot about Gen AI during the beginning of this show. And there's another example, just jumping into the use of it. I know you were mentioning about when we were talking about one example that I think that was really interesting for you to share.
Yeah, so the Shutterstock, which is our global content company. They basically offer services for companies, especially the creative materials such as photos or basically art or even videos. So they have now started to use AI, and what is very different for others, they actually pay for the artist. So they get, because the copyrights has been an issue in many cases. So Shutterstock, I believe, is the first company to pay money for the artist for the copyrights when they create content with AI. And it could be, of course, that they mix and match the material from other artists' work as well. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Stephen King would be happy to hear something like that as well.
Yes.
And also just jumping on the boat of the data here. I mean, we've been talking about 10, 15 years that data is the new oil, but oil needs refinement, needs to be worked to become valuable asset, right, for organizations. And we had this example, Dean, around Eastman, using all this. You probably, whenever you call a customer center, you said, it was stated that,
right.
This call is being recorded for improving.
Right.
Obviously, nobody was using that for improving anything, it seems, sometimes. But now they are using all this
right.
data to train models and pair that with the service support representatives and help you immediately on those aspects. Dean, any other big data is the new oil example that AI is advancing there?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about generative AI, one of the reasons it got all those users in record time is that for once we're talking about, I hate to use overly technical terms. Our producers are looking at us with the stern looks. Don't get too technical, but I mean, if you think about data in three different buckets, right? You have, transaction data, like what do you buy from your suppliers and what do your customers owe you, right? That was like the first domain of commercial setting AI. Then you have operational data. What do managers look like? Or how much inventory do I have around these products? But now we're able to actually look at designs. I mean, and the reason people relate to it through ChatGPT, everyone writes, right, or speaks. Everyone has to create content for to exist, basically, right? And so this is called master data, right? You're creating not content just for decision making or to see where you're going in your processes, but you are extending yourself in that situation. So it brings up the possibility to use what you could have thought of as junk data before, like, okay, maybe these recordings are used if a customer complains, like, I didn't like the way this person spoke to me, or if the employee himself or herself, I don't even know if they had access to like improve themselves by listening to the recordings. But now you're in a position that you can build the super responder, the AI that actually talks to the customers and can use all of the data to actually become really passionate about a specific pair of scissors that there's no way you can pay anyone enough that to really become that passionate. And at the same time, companies wouldn't have like an expert like that answering phones, unfortunately, right? You have phone answering experts answering phones, not experts on any topic. So that's where, the data becomes the new gold, right? Because you couldn't have had 20,000 people, 20,000 trainers talking to one new customer service rep in a meaningful way. It just wouldn't be even useful, right? But now you can do that. And so that's where the gold comes in, I think.
Okay. And jumping into the not so fun fact, or maybe not so fun aspect, which is regulation. And we just recently been hearing about the new regulation, European AI Act. So what are reflections on that aspect?
I think AI Act will be enforced probably in 2-3 years. We'll see how that goes. The first part went through only in December last year. But of course, what they want to do, they want to protect people. So there is necessary things like, example, being more open about what data is collected and is it shared with third parties, and how is it utilized afterwards. And I think what's a bit problematic that the regulations, they always come a bit too late. If we're thinking about social media, we're still figuring out a little bit how to regulate them, even though they have been around nearly 20 years. So, but it's coming. And also there's another one, which is a Data Act, which is actually enforced already. So that will come sooner. And also there is the kind of the privacy is the one of the key elements. And also, which is interesting, is the IoT, so Internet of Things. So it could be any device which is connected to internet. Let's say, let's take an example, Siri, or our watch, which is connected to the internet, and there is Siri who could be listening us all the time. So what's happening with this data? The only problem I see here that people have been, including me, not all of, basically all of us. So we have been sharing a lot already without thinking what can be done with that data. Companies can utilize the data. Criminals can utilize the data and gather it from open sources. There's actually a lot of data, and privacy is kind of gone a little bit already.
Can I challenge a bit on the regulation part? I'm also very, very keen on following that side. And there are a couple of things. I think the positive thing about these regulations, European regulations, is obviously that they reflect the European values
Exactly.
and put the ethics kind of rules forward. But then I wonder, does data stay only in Europe? Data flows across the borders. How are we then vis-a-vis other regulations from the States? Probably there is a set of regulation as well elsewhere from the world. And then the second part that I always wonder is knowing the European regulation making process, it's always a compromise. And do you think there is a compromise would you have been in their shoes? Would you wanted to have the regulation stronger or somehow different? It's a difficult question.
It is a difficult and actually not very easy to answer. There's always, you need to kind of let go something that you would like to go. And we have had actually a lot of discussions about these regulations in information security community as well, because at the same time, we think, let's take a very difficult topic, which is something abusing children online, for instance. So we, of course, want that authorities can get into the data and get to the criminals. But at the same time, if we regulate too much, then they don't have opportunity to do that. And when it comes to regulation, we only have talking about EU, but you're correct. There is a lot of regulation also coming all over the world. In US, China is a good example. They want to keep the data in China. And there is a new regulations that it is possible that many companies need to think about the technology structure again, because there could be technologies which are actually completely banned to use in China. There already are. I think it was AWS, which is banned in China. So they need to think how they do this. So that would be actually probably a topic for another podcast to think about their China strategy.
It could be quite long indeed. And actually, we are helping a few of our clients with Chinese market and Chinese strategy on technology stack, technology infrastructure as well, which leads us to the next chapter, which is around computation. Smarter, not harder, and especially where the computation needs to be, where the hardware, which hardware is the most appropriate for that process or for that purpose. And Dean, you had a good example around that I wanted you to cover that one.
Sure. Well, when you want to think about smarter, you have to always start by thinking the video game industry, which we don't do enough when we're talking about AI. you have to understand from a computational standpoint the difference between traditional computing and the computing that's unlocked the AI. Many of our listeners probably use Microsoft Excel. It's a very, simple to use and easy to understand tool. You have a lot of calculations on there. So you would not be wrong to think of a hard calculation in Excel with lots of data to be a problem of winning a race, a long race. So, if you analogize it to car racing, right? You could win with the Ferrari. You could go further and faster than you could with the same driver driving a lesser vehicle, a everyday vehicle. But what if the problem isn't to win a race? What if the problem is to make a delivery, a dozen deliveries, 10,000 deliveries in a very tight residential or city packed neighborhood? Then a bicycle might do better, and you would want as many bicycles as you could have as there are deliveries. I mean, that's how you'd win the race. So you have to think about computing in the same way. Like, do our traditional computing models serve what we're trying to do? We have to question ourselves again and again, and we have to help our clients question themselves, and we have to set up the infrastructure to actually come up with the equivalent of the 12,000 bicycles.
What about in this GPU and CPU comparison for
LLMs? Indeed. So GPUs, again, brainchilded by the video game industry for the task of 30 frames per second videos, right? And that task is very much like the bicycles, and these tasks have a direct analogy to machine learning as well, and that's why the GPUs have unlocked machine learning. Machine learning, how to do it, has been around for decades, like since 60s, 50s. It's been understood, but yet you just never had the computing to be able to pull it off. But the GPUs, again, sets up the processor to do this type of work, to make your video game experience, feel like a movie, 30 frames per second, every pixel refreshing at that rate. So you need a computer that can do that for that application. And you can just think of machine learning as being exactly the similar type of task. That is not going to be served by a Ferrari at all. So,
I was impressive when looking at the report. That using GPU instead of CPU for training an LLM model 5 times faster, 6 times cheaper.
Right.
Or probably that's one of the reasons even Bitcoin is mined in using GPUs and not CPUs, because it'll be just crazy in energy consumption. If you want to have a greener environment and a green IT in our space too. And obviously to manage all these different type of technologies, we need people, good people, per server with the proper tools, proper models, proper management, proper governance as well. And also that's a good hook for our next chapter, which is from DevOps to DevEx. And, the report suggests that, these new technicians, engineers that are coming out to companies that are not necessarily tech companies, sometimes they have some struggle or some difficulties to progress their career or being very productive. And I just wanted to take your inputs on that aspect.
Absolutely. And going a bit back, let's say 30 years back, when I was studying, I was first studying to become programmer. And our teacher, she told us, watch out, you will be strange people. And that was the starting point. At that time, indeed, programmers perhaps were a specific group, perhaps liking to work together a bit in isolation, perhaps in the basement if you want, no windows. We have come a long way, obviously, from that. And today's situation is, I would say, quite the opposite. I mean, there are not enough resources available for the needs we have in the companies. We are going all the way towards digitalization in all areas of life. And obviously, we need people to make it happen. So I think the journey has been long, and the position now today is totally different from what it used to be. And indeed, how to attract that talent, how to find the right people, and how to make them, to keep them, how to keep them motivated, how to define and design the right kind of career models for them. That is definitely a challenge. Some of the solutions suggested in the report and what I've seen as well is more having that multidisciplinary, as we like to call it, approach of bringing different people together so that the programmers are not in that silo or in their own box, but that they are involved from the start of the development journey. So you think of a project, it's not just that, okay, business defines requirements and drops those to developers. Not at all, but that you are involved from the very beginning in the development journey and bringing in your contribution, your ideas, what is possible, what is not. And that makes it far more attractive probably for the developer, but also more successful delivery of products that you're working on.
Yeah, and even in our research, basically, we're saying about this research and platforms that helps engineers and even the regular employees to become more productive and help them doing the job. And during one of presentations at a university here in Finland, they were asking me, okay, what about in Deloitte? What are you guys using in terms of new GPTs or generative tools to help you doing your job? And I mentioned about Perdi, that's something that helps me to compose some mails and PPTs and so forth. Have you folks used that? What is that being helpful for you?
Yeah, the velocity of what you can produce is really high, and it goes back to that example we were talking about with the nunchucks and Cheetos, that you can just test a lot of different versions, which under normal time constraints, people's availability constraints, you just couldn't do that before. And so we're looking at a lot of ridiculous versions of things that lead to some really good results.
And it's perhaps not yet part of the routine for us to work yet, so it needs to become a habit. Yeah.
Yes,
that's true. I use Paired every day, and it's it can fix my grammar, or it gives me other points of view that I may have not even considered. So that's really good, and it's so quick, and I have started to think about, is it making me lazy?
No, it's just free. It's not making you lazy, right? It's taking you away from those tasks that you shouldn't be doing anymore. Because I mean, we're not chiseling, taking our notes with hammer and chisel and stone tablets anymore, right? So
perhaps it also saves us from sending to a colleague, can you please review if there is something wrong or errors or
exactly.
I mean, you can use that as a. Obviously, still your own judgment is needed. Yeah. Definitely not to forget about that. Yeah. But still, kind of the round of iterations can be perhaps reduced a bit faster, as you say.
Yeah, and that's living, or walking the talk, as we say in the report, right? Pair yourself with a good tool can make you a better human, right? Or at least produce as better results, more results, and be more productive in that sense. So I think that's a great tool that has been helping not us, but also our clients in many sense.
And looking at the dev experience chapter we have in the report, it suggests that like more than half of the time of developers are used for fixing and things that is not perhaps too thrilling. It's not future oriented. It's about maintaining and fixing and seeing what has gone wrong. So indeed, if tools can help on that side, again, we come to the creativity part. You can focus more on creating something new features that is more thrilling.
So, but why necessarily building our own tool and not using already self-made out of the shelf?
So I guess my focus is obviously in security. So we wanted to have own tool, which contains Deloitte kind of data sources, and also we have more transparency. Even though it's kind of a ChatGPT engine behind, but we have more control also over the tool.
And, you want to have control over the system and you want to protect it. But just like art, you have to draw art that's worth stealing, to justify the protection. And any GPT you can think of as the future of setting organizations apart, because we could all be using just ChatGPT. Even security and client protection aside, but then we'd all be producing the same thing. And if you think about how a GPT or other LLMs are trained, it's trained based on the data that you choose to identify as, good data, millions of units of good data. ChatGPT is trained on the public internet. It's read all of the internet up until 2021. You can think of it that way.
Yeah.
But public there is the key word, right? So public internet is what anyone could have access to, but every company should create its own GPT with information that only the company has and wants its employees to have. And we can talk about curation, I think, in a little bit, but you can also curate that model to extra emphasize the values you have as a company.
Yeah.
And we're on the brink of taking Paired into that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Representing Deloitte values and also
Absolutely, yeah.
confidentiality. And also the expertise that we all contribute.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is not public internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
You could just Google everything or ChatGPT everything.
That's cool. Yeah, and that brings us to the cyber and trust, because we're talking a lot about this in that sense, which is another chapter, another macro force from our Tech Trends report. And it's about protecting, the truth in the digital age as well, right? So you probably have seen those deep fake bingos across the internet, and I was curious to see one that they were showing basically 5 or 10 faces, and you have to guess which one was a deep fake, which one was not, and nobody was even able to get like 50%, 60% of those, right? So Anu, that's your area of expertise. I'm happy that you're here to share a bit of insights on that aspect.
Yes, so what we have been seeing that AI, of course, is expanding their attack surface. And lately we have seen the new threats. Of course, the technology has been around, but it has not been so widely used. And lately what we have seen that the celebrities, they face it. Example, Taylor Swift. Her face was put in their nude photographs, and they were spreading all over the internet. We have seen a bit more scary examples when the voice of one candidate in Slovakian elections were utilized by actually another party, and actually a bit out of context words were put in his mouth, and unfortunately some of the voters thought that he's actually saying these words. There was no face shown, only voice, and they didn't actually vote him because of this deepfake video. And then there was a big case in Hong Kong lately. It was beginning of this year. The employee who was targeted was working in finance. This person was attending even a meeting with these people who were actually the scammers, and they managed to convince this person to transfer over 20 million euros. And they used basically the voice, and they used the faces of people who this person is working with. And these are good examples what can happen.
Yeah, these are very scary because we are way ahead of the simple email with poor English written saying that you just hear like 5 million and they want your bank account. Obviously, you can note that that's a fake thing. And on our report, we mentioned about in that sense for Intel that's developing a chip that can identify blood flow and veins and so forth, heat mapping. I mean, that's very powerful, but it's also very scary in that sense.
That's very scary because I think these content tools are available for everyone, but are these, let's say, protective tools available for everyone? I think that's kind of at least sounds very high tech for me that, you need to use this vein detector.
Right. Perhaps, true podcast style, I'll stand up for deepfake. It might be hard for people to imagine that someone would stand up for deepfake, but it's important not to confuse the enabling technology. I mean, deepfake is what's leading to the exact, Stanford medicine thing you talked about, where they were simulating all the failure modes in a surgery.
Yes.
Right. It's the exact same mindset that allows you to do that. The same mindset, not necessarily in victimizing Taylor Swift or the politician, but the same mindset of creating something that's not real, but to serve you in a way that's productive. So, every time you think of deep fake and, if you're in a position of legislation or even if you just want to form your own opinion, either as an individual or as a participant in an organization, also think about the fact that the synthetic data, such as the training data, which is very important in clinical aspects, safety testing aspects, that synthetic data would not be possible if it were not possible to put the wrong person's face on the wrong picture. And then curation is something you want to think about. So deepfake is precisely how you can remove racism and child abuse from training data. Like if that's inherent, rape culture, if those things are inherent in the training data, deepfake is the way you can remove those inherent biases that you don't want to, propagate into artificial intelligences.
Yeah, thanks.
So,
thanks. It's a good call to see the positive aspects because deepfake is so associated with bad news that we tend to forget that is, there's a lot of positivity within these technologies, like creating videos. Even we create videos with training and aspect like that instead of hiring an actor and spending a lot of budget, taking a lot of time, which is also very, very interesting. But with deepfake, we can accelerate the process of training and creating examples, creating models, and so forth.
It's definitely good to hear positive examples. Because with my limited knowledge on this side, I think deepfake is always mentioned indeed in the connection of something terrible happening, and usually in the connection of social media and then perhaps youngsters or people who perhaps are not so critical for the information that they get. So also thinking of half a population of the globe is voting this year, that leads to your example about the
be a transformative
and how much that can affect voters. Behavior and what the messages might be.
Yeah, we might be at the brink of just like the scandals of collecting data from social medias and using to influence voters. We might be in the same time. Okay, we're not collecting the data anymore, but we're creating data that might influence voters, which is very dangerous in that sense. But let's not try to be on the bad side or on the frustrating side. Maybe let's try to bring it to the positive aspect of the deepfake, which is a good reminder for us all as well. The potential good things it can bring.
And this might be entertaining for my nerds out there. Whenever you think of deepfake, think about what is happening technologically, and they explain simply. You have one AI producing something, and an independent AI, adversarial AI. Evaluating that for effectiveness, whether it's a good enough fake or a bogus fake, not good enough,
good
right?
output or not,
right? And that is exactly how you come up with the clinical data. Like, no, we tested 40 million humans, not 200 humans on this. So that's it. You can apply that to create fake faces and on pictures, and you can apply it to do very beautiful things.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about beautiful things, it leads me to think about wellness, good health, good positive thoughts. And that leads us to the last chapter or last trend on our Tech Trends report, which is core modernization. Obviously, always when we get to that topic, everybody says, oh my God, I need to deal with the tech debt and the old, rusty, but sometimes very trusty also technology on my basement that I need to deal with. And Mira, the report tells a little bit about just like tech tools, Apple Watches, health rings, reminds us that, hey, it's been 1 hour that you're sitting. Maybe it's time for you to stand up. Maybe it's time for you to do this, or recommend drinking a glass of water, right? So keeping ourselves always in check, keeping ourselves always looking out for our health. And the report tells a bit of a stories on how to apply the same logic or the same concept for my technical debt and not waiting 5 years to modernize my ERP or my tech stack?
Indeed, in my experience in the public sector, I've come quite a bit across complex landscapes of applications, being business applications, being ERPs, you name it, many different kinds of packaged applications. And tends to be that year after year, we add more applications rather than reduce.
Mm-hmm.
So what that leads to is some kind of a jungle. We can,
Complexity.
in one example, we said this was the spaghetti of different things. Nobody anymore knew what was leading to where and where the connectors might lie. And there are different kinds of technologies. And obviously, as a decision maker, then you should be worried. You should be concerned. Hey, are we running here a monster or are we running here efficient IT to support the business? And in that sense, I very much like the vibe of the report of looking at the well-being of your landscape. So seeing, are we doing the right things in order to address what comes in the future? So looking at the data, for example, is the data we have, is it solid? Is it okay for the future AI solutions? Is it can we base our solutions on the data we have? Is the networks, these are evolving enormously. Are they up to date? Should we try to fix what we have today, or should we rather see, so how are we moving to the next generation of networks and so forth? So the report lays out several facets where you can basically be asking the same questions, or the line of questioning. How can we improve our current landscape so that it is future-proof?
Well, what brings to my mind is that when I host cyber exercises or crisis exercises, especially when we go to the operational technology, so usually you have a factory. So those systems there are sometimes from 50s or 60s, and it's going to be a big investment. But at the same time, they know that if something happens, and what we have been seeing, that someone goes to, so someone retires, so the knowledge of those old systems goes away. And if there is an incident, they may need to ask this person to join the company for a little while to sort these issues out. So there's definitely, big investment that needs to be seen for many bigger companies, and, get rid of the legacy companies and think about the wellness in the broadest picture.
Yeah, and generative AI also helping us to keep our core modernized, such as, using old COBOL language, passing through a generative AI, asking to transform into a Java new model or a new language, more modern language, instead of having to hire 10 developers to just, doing something to keep one module modernized or something like that.
And thinking about the life cycles of the systems as well. Exactly. What brings to my mind is our example from Facebook, because it's not interesting platform anymore for younger generations. So they actually know that Facebook will be dead in a couple of, maybe 50 years, and they have more dead members than they have members alive. So that's, I don't remember by heart what was the year that they expect that, they have more dead people on the platform that alive. So it comes to an end, even though, it's not it's still an important business platform. Yes. So some companies, but they don't get any more new members from youngsters. So.
Yeah. Everything changed. Nothing is permanent. And just like this podcast is also coming to its conclusion, just want to hear your final thoughts. What are perspectives, good things, bad things, worry things for 2024, and which we can help our clients with?
I'll jump in on that, especially in light of the last topic. So we have to prioritize not having spaghetti monsters as the gating factor in a company's progress. But when tech people, IT people, think about what to prioritize, I would encourage to always go back to the parts of tech that define what you're doing. So if you're Apple, I don't think that company struggles to prioritize refreshing the parts of the landscape where their product developers develop the products. And there's lots of companies that are not like that, and especially more industrial companies with traditional products. I would encourage those leaders to always prioritize enabling faster product development, better product development, more money-making product development when they think about their tech refreshes.
Great.
And I think with the topics we've discussed today and how things are evolving, we can no longer say that there is a tech part in the organization. I mean, technology is everywhere. And I think it's time to kind of cut those silos or break those silos and really see technology supporting business throughout the organization. And it's not that basement business anymore, but it is really a boardroom business. So technology is represented on all levels. And I think all the topics we discussed today, they have that nuance a bit of, yes, it is horizontal, it is holistic, it is cross-cutting, and impacts us all.
Yeah, great reminder for our boardroom members out there.
And you brought nicely the kind of the business and organization side, so I'll bring the human side. And I encourage everyone who has not ever used AI. There's so many products that you can use for free. You can start from ChatGPT, but you should start today, not tomorrow, and you can see the impact. And remember, just don't use it for work content if you don't have permission for that. But everyone should start now, and hopefully their companies are coming soon after, and they use these tools for a more creative way than just only cutting cost and more productivity.
Yeah, fantastic. And my message basically is there are 6 macro forces. They help a lot our discussion with clients whenever we're looking to the future, so we don't just get messed around or get lost with all this fuzz of new technologies. And remember, those evolutionary technologies, they might be very helpful to cause business transformations, lead business transformations. And just like Anu was saying, I mean, glasses we're using to enhance your ability to view better, and technologies also do the same. I mean, they enhance our ability to make our business better, produce more, obviously, but also be more smart and more efficient in the things that we do. Yes, and with all that said, thank you very much, Dean, Mira, and Anu for being here with me today discussing this Tech Trends report. Hopefully we see each other again to discuss the Tech Trends 2025 as well. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.